Atticus Scott, former Kentucky State Representative, and you're joining me today on State Live Streams.
We will continue to provide updates as we have more information.
Kentucky State Representative, and you're joining me today on State Live Streams.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Lyndon Pryor. I'm the president and CEO of the Louisville Urban League, and it is my honor to welcome you to now the third of our series of forums for JCPS Board of Education candidates. We are here live at Eastern High School, which is in District 3, where we will be meeting the candidates tonight. And so I want to first thank Eastern High School, the administrators and staff here who have allowed us the use of their facility and who have welcomed us into their school. I also want to thank JCPS, who has helped us to coordinate these events across schools, at schools across the district. Over these 2 weeks. And so I hope that you at home, those of you who are watching online, will have the opportunity to come and join us at a future forum or have joined us at a past forum, because it is important for us to be in the school buildings that are going to be impacted by the decisions of the folks that we elect. These forums are hosted with a coalition of partners, and so we are so grateful to our partners for these events. We have partnered with the NAACP, the League of Women Voters, Black Leadership Action Coalition of Kentucky, the National Council of Negro Women, Clout, the Links, and ADOS. We could not do this event without the partnership of many. And to have so many partners also shows just how important this issue is, this election is to so many across our community. And so thank you so much to all of our partners who have made this series of forums possible. So tonight's event is part of a larger campaign that the Urban League has launched. It's called the Power Shift. The Power Shift is a messaging and mobilization campaign designed to turn out voters for the November election. This is incredibly important because we don't have a registration problem in Kentucky. We have a turnout problem. We need people to actually show up and vote. And so part of what we are doing is finding ways to engage those individuals who might not ordinarily vote. And what we need for each one of you to do, those of you here in the audience, those of you who are watching online, we need you to go to thepowershift26.org and pledge to vote. When you pledge to vote, it is showing us that you are committed to showing up in November. But don't just pledge for yourself. What we are asking you to do is to then share that with other individuals in your circle, in your family, in your community, in your organization. Get them to pledge to vote as well. Why is this important? It is critical because not only does it show a sign of commitment, it puts people down so that we can hold them accountable to say, hey, you said you were going to vote, and now let's make sure that you do it. But it's also important for us so that we can remind you of important things as the election draws near. Sometimes there are changes with polling places or rules and those sorts of things, and we want to make sure that people are involved. The other thing is it allows us to share information about programs just like tonight, forums, and other informational and educational opportunities to learn about candidates, to learn about policy, things that are on the ballot that are going to impact us all as we move forward in this election. And so please remember, thepowershift26.org and pledge to vote right along with it. Now, as we prepare to enter in today's forum, and again, it is a forum, it is not a debate, and there is an important distinction there because these candidates are not debating one another. They are telling you directly what they feel about the issues and the questions that are asked towards you. There are a couple things that I want to make sure that you take note of. One, for District 3, where we are having the forum tonight, there are 4 candidates running. I have made it a point in the previous 2 forums to note that there have been candidates who have either not responded to the invitation or who did respond and say that they will be there and who did and then chose not to show up. somewhat similarly tonight, we have 4 candidates who will be on the ballot. We have 3 candidates who are present here tonight. But I will say something slightly different. Taylor Everett, who is not here tonight, from the time that we actually launched and invited people months ago, wanted to be here and unexpectedly had a change. But he has been very proactive in trying to make sure that he was as engaged as engaged as possible. He even offered to be here virtually if he possibly could. That was just something that we could not do for him. And so I do want to make note of the fact that while Mr. Everett is not here, he has made every attempt to at least try to be present and engaged, and he has agreed to submit answers to questions at the request of the Urban League. And so do with that as you will, but I just wanted to make sure that that is noted. One other note around the candidates is one of the candidates who is here tonight, Gay Adelmann, has, you may be aware of, has faced a challenge with regard to her ability to run in this district. That process is still moving through the courts, but she has not been removed from the ballot. She has not been removed from this district, which is why she gets to participate in this forum tonight. And so just those things for your consideration as we move through the forum. And so now I get to introduce our moderator for tonight. And I'm pleased that the moderator for tonight's forum is one of our own at the Louisville Urban League, Ms. Michelle Randolph, who is our Director for Youth Development and Education at the Louisville Urban League. Michelle brings a wealth of experience and knowledge to education and particularly to JCPS because that is actually the last place she was employed before coming to work at the Louisville Urban League. So we are excited to have her on board at the league, but especially excited to have her here to moderate our discussion with our candidates. And so with that, I will turn it over to Michelle. Thank you all. Please enjoy the forum. Share this news and information so that others can be informed as they exercise their vote. Thank you.
These are the undeniable facts.
We are here today as a result of an election.
If you show up, you have power. You have power if you show up.
Anything that you are concerned about, any worry that you have for you and your family, we can tie it directly to a vote and to an election.
I'm Michelle Randolph, and I will serve as your moderator this evening for this JCPS School Board Forum for District 3. We are going to begin tonight with having each of our candidates give us an introduction. They will have 2 minutes. They've already drawn numbers, so we will start with Ms. Adelmann here directly to my right. There is a clock in front of you, and so you will have 2 minutes to give us an introduction. You may begin.
Thank you, Michelle, and thank you to the Urban League for hosting our forum this evening. My name is Gay Perry Adelmann. I go by Shay, so you may have heard me referred to as either. I'm originally from Texas. I've been married to the same man for 37 years. We've been together for 40 years. He's a retired engineer from GE. I have 2 adult sons, my youngest of whom graduated from the Academy at Shawnee in 2016. And he went on to attend the U.S. Naval Academy and commissioned in 2020, and he's currently an active duty Marine. He had a wonderful opportunity at the Academy at Shawnee, and I became that school's biggest cheerleader. And that is when I found out that some people don't want some schools in JCPS to succeed. And so I became an advocate, and I formed an organization called Dear JCPS. And parents and teachers and educators and students and community members would speak at board meetings, and we would use our 3 minutes as effectively as we possibly could. But times have changed. And so one of the reasons that I'm running is because I've been a teacher myself. I've been a PTA mom. I'm a public school graduate. I've lived in 8 different school districts in 4 different states, and I've seen how things can work. And I see how things are purposefully sabotaged in some cases, and I don't think it's right. And I want to use this platform to sound the alarm and raise the awareness because I originally moved to Kentucky when my boys were in grades 4 through 8, and we moved back. We lived in rural Kentucky, and we moved back in 2012. So I've been here since 2012, advocating for JCPS students, and I'm going to continue to do so until things change, because nothing changes if nothing changes. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Dr. Veda Pendleton, a native of Pine Bluff, Arkansas. I've been in Kentucky for 20 years. I've been a teacher. I've been a university professor. I've been a department chair. I've been a college dean. And I've been a literacy consultant and equity lead at Kentucky Department of Education that culminates in 31 years in education. I almost didn't run because I just said, well, you're retired. And then I said, well, because you're retired, you can refire. And so I have refired as an advocate for students and children everywhere. I'm appalled when I look at the reading scores and math scores that are on the website for JCPS. Most of our children are not reading on grade level, and most of them are not performing math skills on grade level. And so when the audit report came out, I wasn't surprised by much of what was in there, including the spirit of retaliation that exists in the district, because I had experienced that. And so when the report came out, I didn't have peace resting at night thinking about not running. And so I woke up and said, yes, you have to do this. And so that's why I decided to run, because someone has to speak for the children, somebody has to speak for teachers, and somebody has to give a voice to those who feel as if they are powerless. I'm willing to be that voice for students, for teachers, and for staff.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Neil Seftor. First, I want to thank the Urban League and all of its partners for sponsoring this forum. I have a little bit of a different background. I'm an economist by training, and I've spent the last 25 years evaluating the effectiveness of education programs, including curriculum, teacher programs, large federal initiatives that support students. And the whole purpose of that work is to find what works and for whom and under what conditions. And I believe that the decisions made by the district, most recently in response to the budget crisis, and some of the other decisions, including the choice of curriculum, were not evidence-based. And I believe they're disproportionately hurting teachers and students. And so, as a father of 4 boys, including one who is attending No right now, I believe the district could do better in serving the students that attend the schools. Thank you.
Thank you. We will begin by starting off with questions that have been submitted that we've collected through our policy department. And we will start off with Dr. Pendleton, since we started off with Ms. Adelmann in the beginning. So I'll read the question, and then once you begin, your time will start, and then each of you will then have the opportunity to answer going down the line from there, okay? Question number 1, regarding financial stability and board governance. The $188 million deficit exposed a breakdown in financial oversight and transparency at JCPS. What would you do as a board member to make sure the board is never again surprised by the true condition of the district's finances? Please be specific.
I serve on the board of our HOA, and so with each meeting, our treasurer has to give a detailed accounting of our finances. That is not unreasonable, and everyone should expect that. One of the things that we can do is to insist on having an accurate report given at each meeting. Although our finances are on the website, we still need to have a discussion about those finances and how that money is being spent. It's hard to make an academic decision without knowing what money you have to spend. It's hard to make decisions about buses without knowing what money you have to spend or what's available for professional development for teachers without knowing what you have to spend. We have to hold the people responsible for our finances accountable, and they have to give an accurate report at each meeting for how the money is being spent.
Thank you. Mr. Seftor?
Thank you. So reporting is part of the issue, and getting accurate information is important, but you also need people who are able to read the numbers and understand them and make sure that they are accurate. So there's a lot of reporting that is provided without supporting documentation or explanation for the different expenditures. And so we need more supporting documentation, we need more reporting, and we need people who are able to read the budgets and understand the implications. Another piece of that is that when decisions are proposed or made, we need to examine the budget implications before those decisions are made. Many of the decisions made in the spring in response to the budget situation were made kind of behind closed doors, and the full implications of those were not known. Thank you.
So I'm going to advocate for the taxpayer first and say that I don't think that it's right that JCPS, Jefferson County taxpayers, continue to fund. I think JCPS has been intentionally allowed to fall away because it benefits certain groups of people with certain bits of money, power, and influence. And in my advocacy, I have uncovered enough evidence to know that transparency is not the only thing that we need. We also need the truth. We need for our leaders to tell us what they're really doing behind the scenes and who's calling the shots and who's really influencing who gets appointed to some of these positions. And I would like to see taxpayers be alleviated from the responsibility of repairing someone else's intentional harm. I want to see lawsuits. I want to see real investigations. I want to see outside investigations, no more of these internal investigations where we say, oh, look, we didn't do anything wrong. Because that's what's happening, and I can document this, which is why there is a ballot challenge trying to get me removed from the ballot right this moment. Because they know what I say when I speak at these board meetings. They know that I've been behind the scenes in those rooms where they make those deals. I know what goes on. And I have 20 more seconds left, so I'm going to say the rest about my ballot challenge when I get another chance to speak. But thank you for that question.
Thank you. Let's move to student learning and outcomes. We'll start with Mr. Seftor down at the end. JCPS continues to struggle with persistent achievement gaps between demographic groups. For example, reports show that only 36% of students are proficient in reading. What specific measurable student learning outcomes will you prioritize as a board member, and how will you hold the superintendent accountable if those targets are not met within your first 2 years?
There's a lot of pieces to that question. You know, there's assessments and accountability that districts are required to do. There's the state testing for grades 3 through 8. There's also additional testing in the district for other grades. Last year it was the MAP, now it's switched to iReady. But those need to be acted upon and not just given to students and taken time. So I would set targets for achievement gains and make sure that the superintendent is accountable for those. I understand that the superintendent's going to have more power based on the recent legislation, but I think that makes the board's oversight more important. I forgot the rest of your question.
So it was basically what are those student learning outcomes that you would prioritize and how you would hold the superintendent accountable if those targets are not met?
Sure. So there's a lot of outcomes that are important. Student achievement on math and reading is a critical one, and one where we are seeing low numbers overall and large disparities across different groups. Those disparities need to be addressed by providing more resources to under-resourced schools and teachers. Another concern that feeds into accountability is the chronic absenteeism, which is much worse now than it was before the pandemic. And though there have been some efforts to improve that over the past few years, documenting those issues and referring them for legal action is not the approach to improve student attendance. And attendance is critical if we're going to improve student outcomes.
Thank you. I'm going to piggyback on what he said because it's also important that we be aware about the huge disparities that exist from schools across our district. And when we look at metrics and we see them in their aggregate, they don't really tell the whole story. And we're not really addressing root cause issues. We're fighting for that top spot, which leads to more perks and more benefits and really just keeps the cycle going. So I think it's kind of a pointless endeavor to continue to talk about numbers and how we're going to improve them when we haven't really addressed the elephant in the room. We've got people that are responsible for these things happening in the first place that are still guarding all of the gates. And again, I'm going to reiterate, I don't want to be gloom and doom tonight, but there have been some things that have been allowed to happen that shouldn't, and I think we can all agree to that. And there are some people who have been able to skirt accountability time and time again. So in order to improve student outcomes, I'll bring it back to that, we've got, school is compulsory. Students are required by law to attend school, whether it's safe for them to do so or not, whether they have what they need or not, whether their teachers are engaged or possibly doing something they shouldn't be doing when no one's looking. And how can we expect students to come to school ready to learn and ready to be committed to improving scores that make us look good as adults? This is an adult-focused problem, really. How can we expect that when we're not disciplining our own adult bullies, the adult bullies and adult predators, the adults who groom and recruit? This is happening. You guys turn on the TV, watch the news. People are finally getting arrested for these crimes because there is a new law. And I'm out of time now, so I'll pass it to Veda.
When you asked that question, my brain went in 1,000 different directions. As someone who's been in a school that has not been performing at high levels, I understand some of the discrepancies and disparities that occur. We all benefit from good schools, and all of the children in our schools are our children, and we are responsible for educating all of our children, not just some of them, not just the ones who come to school ready to learn, and we're also responsible for helping families. I didn't mention earlier, I have 5 adult children and 8 grandchildren. And one of the conversations I've had with one of my daughters is that African American families tend to be anxious about sending their children to kindergarten and to public school because they know in many instances they will not be affirmed. And a lot of times the thought is that they don't know anything coming to school when they know an awful lot. The other thing is white parents, on the other hand, are anxious to send their kids to school because they know they will be affirmed. Children come to school, parents send us the best that they have. A lot of times their needs are not met. It could be a learning disability, it could be neurodiversity, where their brain just functions differently. It could be just a lack of instruction. But it's our responsibility, it's everyone's responsibility to teach our children. I know firsthand what it's like to work with kindergartners and helping them just learn how to write their names or learn how to identify the first sight words. So it's everybody's responsibility.
Thank you. We'll start back over here with Adelmann. We'll go to AI. So, last week, a WDRB report revealed that Barnsley Middle School's agenda went out at the beginning of the school year, and that booklet contained many errors, like wrong names for states and the periodic table. What guardrails should the district be putting around staff and students using AI in the classroom?
So with every new technology, district leaders and employees and families face new hurdles and new obstacles and new discoveries and new threats. And AI is the latest threat, but it's the biggest threat that we've probably faced in my lifetime, and I'm 62 years old. And I don't appreciate that I see that we've got city council leaders and, again, people with money and power and influence disrespecting the will of the voters, our will. And I feel like the scandal of the booklet is something that is a careless mistake. I've worked in marketing, and we've put books together, and we've had people use shortcuts, and something didn't turn out the way that it did. There's a chain of command for that. If I'm on the board, that's not my job. We have a superintendent that we're responsible for, and that's it. Let them do their jobs. We need to empower educators and empower staff and take away this toxic culture of retribution and fear of getting in trouble and who we can't let that get out because it'll make us look bad. They're so worried about not looking bad that they're not doing what's good. Let them do what's good. Let's have those constant threats of they're going to shut us down. The administration top down is also very bullying. So there has to be a complete culture shift, and that starts by changing leadership. I don't have anything against Dr. Yearwood. I haven't worked with him. I retired and quit doing advocacy for a while, and because I was beating my head against the wall, and nothing, it wasn't getting a different result. So I decided to move differently, but then I saw what was happening in JCPS again, and I'm a witness to so many of the things that people don't know, and somebody needs to be here to hold people accountable, so I came back for that, and I hope that answered the question.
Dr. Pendleton, we'll move to you. Would you like me to restate the question?
Yes, please.
Sure. So last week, a WDRB report revealed the Barnsley Middle School agenda that went out at the beginning of the school year. That booklet contained many errors, like wrong names for states and the periodic table. What guardrails should the district be putting around staff and students using AI in the classroom?
Thank you. If you had asked me that question 2 years ago, I would have said absolutely not. As a writer, I cherish and hold dear the writing that I do, and I resent when other people use it inappropriately. However, over the past year, I've become friendly with AI. Now, we talk about artificial intelligence and using ChatGPT and Claude and Copilot and Gemini, those apps, but we all use Siri, we all use Alexa, Echo. Those are forms of AI, those are tools. AI is a tool. One of the things that I would do first is ensure that teachers have the correct professional learning about AI. And Harvard University actually offers a free online program about using AI in the classroom. That's important. The one thing that I've learned about using AI is it's important that you know how to think critically. You have to know the prompt, the correct prompt to get the information that is going to be most useful for you in making your decision. Unfortunately, I had two students in a university class use AI with a prompt that I gave them. And unfortunately for them, the AI gave both of them the incorrect answer, which they submitted to my class. And they were accused of plagiarism, and the plagiarism note is now on their academic record. But we have to teach people how, number one, how to think critically, how to write, and how to express themselves in some orally and in some written format. So the guardrail that I would put in place is you have to know how to use it. Now, the same thing happens with teachers pay teachers, and how sometimes I was in a class and the teacher had passed out worksheets that had incorrect information on it. So this is not anything new, it's just in a different format.
Thank you. So there are a few issues with AI. As others have noted, AI is a tool. And just like any tool, people who use it need to understand how it works and how to use it. It is not sufficient to turn over your work to AI, just ask it to do it for you, and then use the results. So while AI generated those maps and other materials, somebody should have looked at them and verified them. It's not enough to just say, well, AI messed up, and give those out. The teachers, the administrators, they're responsible for what goes out to the students, whether it's generated by AI or by the teachers themselves. The same kind of thing happened when Wikipedia came about. You know, people expressed doubt about its veracity, and people were trained and learned to question it and look for other sources. And so the same thing has to happen with AI. You're right, you need critical thinking to use AI. You need to understand what kind of information it's presenting you and how it presents it to you. The other aspect of this is AI in the classroom. And computers have been increasingly used in classroom for the past 20 years, sometimes in useful situations, sometimes in not. In good uses, it has been used to personalize instruction, to meet students where they are. It's able to present materials in more accessible ways. It can be used to facilitate learning along with the teacher. But using it in place of a teacher is also not appropriate. Again, AI is a tool, and it can be used as one of the tools that teachers use to teach students. Next.
Thank you. We're going to move forward with our student disciplinary practice, and we will start with Dr. Pendleton. Restorative justice school policy and the school police system represent two fundamentally opposing approaches to student behavior, safety, and discipline. Restorative justice prioritizes relationship building, repairing harm, and emotional accountability, whereas the school police system relies on law enforcement, security measures, and punitive legal consequences. Which do you believe is right for JCPS and why?
Thank you for that question. My first year in JCPS was at a middle school, and the school was rated lowest academically. And one day I happened to see the sheriff who was at the school handcuff a young lady and take her out. That hurt my heart because I didn't think that would happen in a school, any school. But I understand she was not the first one. One of the things that's most important in learning is building a relationship with the students. It's getting to know them, getting to know something about their background, their families, their home lives. When I started as a teacher in Little Rock, Arkansas, I knocked on parents' doors and I built relationships with families. That allowed me to build relationships in the classroom. When we talk about restorative justice, I'm always asking what happened to break that or to cause there to be a breakdown in the relationship. What happened? Who's responsible? And how can we better serve our students? We have to build relationships with them that help them feel as if they belong in our classrooms and as if they feel as if they are safe. Zaretta Hammond has done research around how the brain works and being culturally responsive. And when we are not culturally responsive, the message that is sent to our students is that you don't belong here. And when I feel as if I don't belong, then my brain goes into fear mode and I become fearful and I feel less safe and I don't learn. I'm for restorative justice at every turn. We just have to identify how to start so that there's not a breakdown in the relationship in the classroom.
Thank you. Mr. Seftor, would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay. Restorative justice, school policy, and the school police system represent two fundamentally opposing approaches to student behavior, safety, and discipline. Restorative justice prioritizes relationship building, repairing harm, and emotional accountability, whereas the school police system relies on law enforcement, security measures, and punitive legal consequences. Which do you believe is right for JCPS and why?
Well, I don't think it's an either or question. So I think restorative justice is the right approach to trying to deal with student behavior and resolve situations. But the schools also need to be a safe environment. So the police or security officers, which are mandated by the state, do have a role in making sure the environment is safe for students. But in dealing with individual behavior, I don't think the police should be involved. I think that the counselors and other support services should be working to help students resolve those issues. But while those issues are ongoing, students may need to be removed from the classroom so that others can still learn. So it's a combination of making sure the environment is safe, but also responding to the student needs appropriately.
Thank you. Ms. Adelmann, would you like me to repeat the question? Or you're okay?
I'm good, I think. I'll start by saying that as a parent of a student at the Academy at Shawnee, I spoke at the board meetings when it was time to speak out against police in our schools. And the district and the state legislature and everybody did the opposite of what we said. And I am opposed to police in schools, especially LMPD, for the reasons that I mentioned earlier, along the lines of harmful behavior that happens when children are in over-policed environments. And restorative practice is a great tool, it's a great concept, but what I witnessed in the systems and the circles that I frequented was that people weren't really committed to it. And when I say people, I mean people who look like me. And there would be such minimal effort that it became a joke, that you would just give the kids chips and a soda and give them time out, and they got to play video games, like it became a reward. And the kids who were actually doing well and trying hard and overcoming all their barriers and obstacles would see that happen and wonder why they had to work so hard and they didn't get any of the same luxuries. And it really just got to the point where it wasn't implemented with fidelity. And I haven't been in schools in the last several years, so I don't know how much things have changed, but I know that the threats from above have only gotten worse, and the money situation has only gotten worse, and the shortages have only gotten worse. And I have 3 seconds left, so I'll continue another time. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Seftor, I'm coming to you with our next question regarding organizational stewardship. Reliable transportation, stable staffing, effective operations, and responsible budgeting all directly impact student success. There are many areas where the school district has struggled at times in recent years. How would you evaluate whether the district is being a good steward of taxpayer money while ensuring students receive the services that they need?
Thank you. This is the main reason that I'm running. Because of the decisions that were made last spring and in ways that I thought were irresponsible and inappropriate for our students. The decisions were made by the superintendent and his supporters to remove staff positions at the schools and remove programs at the schools rather than consolidating positions in the central office. The resources need to go to the students. That's the way that education works. And so there needs to be more accountability from the superintendent in his decision making. I know the board doesn't have much oversight of the superintendent, and with the new legislation, it's going to be harder. It's going to require all of the board to understand what's going on and understand what the superintendent is doing and the proposed changes that are going to happen. But it is only through that process that we can make the correct decisions, ones that are the best for the students, including ones related to transportation and after-school programs and classroom programs and the supportive programs that were removed from the choice schools.
Thank you. Would you like me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Reliable transportation, stable staffing, effective operations, and responsible budgeting all directly impact student success. There are many areas where the school district has struggled at times in recent years. How would you evaluate whether the district is being a good steward of taxpayer money while ensuring students receive the services that they need?
Well, I'm going to skip on ahead and say they're not. So what are we doing about it currently? What we're doing isn't working. So I have seen money bleeding out of the district in discrete ways, such as settlements to victims of sexual assault at the hands of their own mentor, leader, government employee on our tax dollars. These people often get protected by the district in their internal investigations, and the people who have known about it continue to pretend they don't know, even though we've told them to their faces time and again, and then they end up paying settlements to the victims and legal fees to protect them as well, and nothing changes because it's all a big secret. So I want to see the district stop bleeding money through secret backroom settlements and undisclosed amounts of legal fees, protecting those who are harming our children, literally having conflicts of interest by serving on our board and also being at one time attorneys for the people that are in the court system now with these accusations. There is a culture in our school system that allows this, that enables this, and it's costing us a lot of money. I also want to see the people closest to the student receive the most money. I don't want to see us incentivizing great educators out of the classroom so they can get a desk job and be removed from their students because maybe they didn't like the school they were at because it might have been a little too different than what they were comfortable with. And there are a lot of priorities that just need to be reset, and as a member of the board, we will get right to work doing that.
Dr. Pendleton,
Will
would
you?
you? Yes.
Yes, please.
So I'm just going to read the question. How would you evaluate whether the district is being a good steward of taxpayer money while ensuring students receive the services that they need?
When the Maasai warriors returned home from war, their question to the women is, how are the children? The expected response is, all the children are well. Until we can say all of our children are well and thriving and learning at high levels, there's got to be greater accountability. One of the things that I would push for is ensuring that we are closing the achievement gap between students, between all groups of students. How are we closing that achievement gap? The other thing, how are the kids getting home? It is unacceptable to me for a bus to deliver a student home at 7 o'clock at night. That's unacceptable. And I don't know if anybody else gets upset about stuff like that. I do. It's unacceptable when the media reports that 50% of our students are ready for kindergarten. That means 50% are not ready. There are so many inequities that exist in our district. Until we extinguish the inequities that are systemic, that were brought about long before any of us graced the face of this earth, until we work together to extinguish those inequities in learning, in how we discipline our students, and in how we provide opportunity for each and every student. We have to do that if we want, and that's how we evaluate how our money is being spent.
Thank you. Speaking of money, we are going to transition for the last roughly 20 minutes of this by going towards our questions that we have received from the audience. So we're starting with Ms. Alderman here. Our first question is, what do you believe is a fair salary increase for teachers, especially given they did not receive an increase on the last contract negotiation?
Well, the fact that there was no increase on the last contract negotiation is a failure in and of itself. I would like to see teachers and all JCPS employees have solid democratic representation from the organizations that are going to bat for them in those rooms. And I have witnessed examples of that not happening. And so I would listen to myself when I spoke on the other side of the microphone at the board meetings, week after week, month after month, about the violations that were taking place at the school level, and the district took a very hands-off approach. The board is who we reported this to. I reported numerous things that added to the inequities instead of doing the jobs that these support organizations are supposed to be helping with. And I was not received well. I was labeled the problem. I was silenced and stifled. And so, again, I'm going to reiterate the reason I'm running for this position is to use this microphone. This event tonight was something that I was looking forward to. And I know I've said a lot of things that may make some people uncomfortable, but this is about our children, you guys. This is happening, and it's not every educator. In fact, it's probably a very small percentage of them. It's mostly administrators. It's mostly people at the higher echelon and the people spending the money to get the contracts and the favorable treatment and their kid into the right school and all of those things. And we're allowing that to happen on the backs of the children that are actually paying the price. And my time is up.
Dr. Pendleton, same question. What do you believe would be a fair salary increase for teachers, especially given they did not receive an increase on the last contract negotiation?
Well, let me back that up just a little bit. I was ticked when they took away the $8,000 that CSI teachers are supposed to get, and they only told them a few days before school started. That ticked me off because I work at a CSI school. I know what that means. I know the kind of challenges that teachers face in schools that have that label. I know the hard work that goes into reaching and teaching students who attend those schools. So it was unfair to teachers for them to tell them just a few days before school started, oh, by the way, you're not going to get that. So what percentage should they get? First of all, they need to get that $8,000. And then a fair percentage would be something that's comparable to the percentage that the superintendent and the other administrators get. What's that percentage? WDRB posted the salaries of over 1,300 people in the district who make over $100,000. Most of them were not teachers. So what's the percentage increase that they get? That's what teachers should get, and then some. But let's start backfilling what the CSI schools were supposed to get in the first place. I come from a small state, Arkansas. Beginning salary in Arkansas for a teacher is now $50,000. It's a small, poor state. We can do better.
Thank you. Mr. Seftor, would you like me to repeat the question?
Sure.
Wonderful. What do you believe is a fair salary increase for teachers, especially given they did not receive an increase on the last contract negotiation?
So, excuse me, a fair salary increase would be one that incorporated both the cost of living and the salaries in neighboring districts. So other districts have more funding and they've been able to support their teachers, and our teachers should receive at least the same. And in fact, they need higher raises to raise their salaries up to comparable levels.
Thank you. We are now going to move forward with our second question from the audience, and I believe it will start with Mr. Seftor, I believe.
Okay.
I think I lost count. That's all right. As a student at a middle school, how are you going to make school fun for kids, plus for them to have something to work for or be excited about?
How am I going to make school fun for kids? I have to say that I don't have a lot of experience in making school fun for kids. I guess I would turn to the teachers and others who work with the students every day and see the kinds of things that they're interested in, and support those activities, whether they're extracurricular activities or things that can be done in the classroom to both encourage learning, but make the learning a little more fun, less rote work. I guess that's what I would say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Adelmann, would you like to answer that question?
I'll try. So I guess I'm looking at this from a board member perspective, and I'm grateful that that's not going to be my duty. However, I agree that we rely on the experts and the professionals who have been trained and are experienced in that area. But I would also ask what fun really looks like, and is it the same for everyone? And are those opportunities for fun going to be the same for everyone, depending on their zip code, the needs they may have come to school with unmet, or even the lower resource availability at the school that they attend? And are we making sure that their basic needs are met so that they can focus on a fun learning environment. And the challenges are going to vary as you go from school to school, as I observed and as I even documented when I had to go to court to get data regarding the different PTA fundraising capabilities. And again, the rumor was that I was trying to destroy PTA or something. I don't remember. I'm a PTA mom, you guys, I'm on your side. But I wanted to demonstrate that there were some disparities and that there are some schools that don't have the same capability of making the same fundraising goals. And you know, we have to recognize that that only broadens the disparities. And so I was a big fan of our district of choice and the transportation opportunities that existed for our students that has recently been stolen from them. And we could have done a much better job actually making sure that students were being able to benefit from having the resources at their school, so there weren't so many disparities across the district. And it only gets worse every year because we haven't changed what we're doing. Nothing's changed.
Dr. Pendleton, the same question. As a student at a middle school, how are you going to make school fun for kids, plus for them to have something to work for or be excited about?
When I hear the word fun, I also hear the word engaging. I want students to be engaged in the learning. I was in a middle school classroom when Trayvon Martin was killed. And we had a conversation in our reading class. I had all male who were the lowest readers in 8th grade. And we had a talk about Trayvon Martin and what happened to him and why it happened to him. And I went to the principal and said, we've been talking about Trayvon Martin. I'd like to continue that discussion later on, and I want to invite the students to bring their hoodies to school, and I'll provide iced tea and Skittles for them, because that's what Trayvon Martin had. He had gone to the store to get those items that day. And so I wanted them to be engaged. They were low readers, but they were able to understand in a personal way a current event that could impact their lives. That's what learning is about. Not just the tragedy, but about life and about how what you're learning today will apply to you later in life so that you can do more than survive, so that you can thrive with the learning that you have. And so I want students to be engaged. If engaging means fun, you got it. I want them to feel safe. If that means fun, you got it. Those are the two things that are most important to me and the things that I would do to make the learning come alive. But I also like experiential learning. I like field trips to plays and to different places.
Thank you so much. We're going to go back to Austin here at the end, and that's a great segue for our next question that came from the audience. Do you believe that Black students are the lowest level academic students in JCPS? And if you do or do not, what do you base that on?
There's some words that I would want further interpretation before I try to really answer that question, but can you repeat it?
Sure. Now, this is a question from the audience. Okay. Do you believe Black students are the lowest level academic students in JCPS? What do you base your answer on? Now, I'm not trying to read into this question, but from my experience, they may be speaking to the fact that the academic gap and the achievement gap is much wider for students of color, and some people will make the narrative that it's like that because those students are the lowest level academically. Now, I'm just adding that on to explain, but kind of go from there.
Do I think that the test scores represent our Black students accurately? No. I think that our test scores and teaching to the test and chasing data is an adult thing, again, and it creates an unhealthy, competitive, not a team-oriented environment. And there are just some things that don't work well in an education setting, and using scores like that to say that some students are better than others or excel in certain subjects when the tests themselves have been created in a way that standardizes children, it doesn't find exceptional children. So we're actually missing so many exceptional children. And because our Black students statistically show up at the bottom of the data, it means that they're missing out on more opportunities than our white students, if you're honest about it. And so I think that again, I really want to see us say, if we were to take, we have a lot of money in JCPS. At one point, are we at 2 billion?
1.76 billion.
It's still 1.76-ish? Okay. If you could take that much money and build a brand new school system from scratch and have it be sustainable year after year with a balanced budget going in, that you knew that that's what your job was as a board, what would that look like? And continuing to expect and demand taxpayers continue to fund something that has been proven to be on its way out. We've got a rocky foundation and we keep patching the walls. We need to recognize that there are some things, and we have some wonderful buildings, and I don't really mean this about the buildings because I love the architecture in some of these places, so this is not really a dig on the buildings, but it is a dig on the structural foundation of JCPS as a district, and it's a crumbling foundation, and we need to look at better ways to invest going forward.
Dr. Pendleton, same question to you.
This was another one that made my brain
I
fire in a
know.
lot of different directions. Number one, I've been an item writer for the ACT, so I've written ACT questions. I've always also been a reviewer of test questions for the Iowa Test of Basic Skills, looking for fairness with the questions. And when I look at a test, I always look at the norming population. Usually it's a white middle-class community in a suburban area, not an urban area. But I've also been an accommodator for students with special needs who are taking our test. And I understand the challenges that those students face. I know what the data says. I've seen it. Our Black students, African American students, I'm sorry, what's the term?
Are the lowest level academic students in JCPS?
No. No, they're not. And I'm not saying that just because I'm Black, but because I know that our students come to school with language, they come to school with information, they come to school with tools. It may not be the same thing that's on the Brigance or that's on the Kentucky test. It may not be the same thing, and they may not be able to express it in the same way, but they're intelligent people. I have a dear friend who's a university professor who told me when I was in public, when she was in public school, she got C's in reading, but she always read Ebony and Jet. And she didn't realize how much history she was learning when she read Ebony and Jet. So we have different sources of information. We've got to figure out how to be culturally responsive in reaching each and every student.
Thank you, Dr. Pendleton. Mr. Seftor, now to you. Do you believe that Black students are the lowest level academic students in JCPS? And what do you base your response on?
So the answer is no. And if we're having a discussion that is based on test scores, there are all sorts of factors that go into that. But the fact is that those don't measure academic ability in a uniform way. Students come to the schools with different backgrounds and different resources. And in these schools, they don't get the same opportunities. So of course, they're not going to have the same kind of outcomes across different types of students. So, I mean, the basic question of whether they're academically the worst, the answer is no.
Thank you. We're going to start to wrap up here this evening, and I want to thank all of you for coming out. And so we just have a few more questions. This one is also from the audience. Regarding leadership at the building, meaning principals, assistant principals, etc., how would you evaluate the superintendent's staffing choices? Coming to Dr. Pendleton.
That's a loaded question. I will share with you as a point of transparency. I worked for a principal who was punitive in every sense of the word. About mid-year, I started carrying in my book bag my letter of resignation because I didn't know when I was going to have to render it. It was just that miserable at that school. And I prayed, and I said, okay, God, you got two choices. You can move me to a different school, or you can beam me up right now, because this is not how it's supposed to be. As far as the superintendent choosing the principal, I don't think the superintendent should choose that person without input from the community. The people who work in that school, the parents who are part of that school, I think there should be multiple voices. I'm familiar with Senate Bill 1 and the superintendent having much more authority, but no human being can make the right decision every time for 96,000 students and 18,000 employees. That is just humanly impossible. And so, in answering your question, would you repeat the last half of it?
Yes. How would you evaluate the superintendent's staffing choices?
To evaluate those choices, you've got to be kind of in their head to know, well, why did you choose this person? Mm-hmm. But you can't evaluate it without knowing some background as to the principal and as well as the person. There's been a lot of nepotism in the district, and a lot of favoritism with cronies. That's real. And so you have to get to that point as well. And I think that's part of the reason we've had some of the challenges that we've had in the district, that it hasn't been an equitable opportunity for all principal applicants.
Thank you. Mr. Seftor, now coming to you with the same question regarding leadership at the buildings, how would you evaluate the superintendent's staffing choices?
So I think the leaders of buildings are also accountable. So the way to evaluate whether they're doing their job correctly is to look at outcomes that they can affect. One of those is teacher retention. If the teachers are not happy and they're leaving, that may be an indication that there are problems at the school. That's one measure. But you also want to look at student outcomes, both academic and behavioral outcomes. If the principal is not running the school well, working with the staff, working with the students, those outcomes are going to suffer as well. So if you see those outcomes declining at a school after a new principal has been there, or declining over time with the principal, that is an indication that there's a problem. And if the superintendent doesn't do anything about it, the superintendent should be accountable for his choices.
Thank you. And following up with Ms. Adelmann, go ahead, and we're asking the same question. How would you evaluate the superintendent's staffing choices?
So as a member of the board, we're responsible for the superintendent himself and his performance, as well as policy and budget. So I would focus on policy in particular, making sure that we have good policies in place that prevent the nepotism and prevent the favoritism and the cronyism, and that have consequences when staff members date their students. I'm sorry, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm done with that topic, but it literally is something that happens in our schools. And sometimes they get married and they're still teaching in that building today, and people know that there was something like that going on, and it becomes accepted behavior and tolerated behavior. And then when it gets found out, that's when the crimes begin, that's when the cover-ups begin. And so, can you repeat the question? Because I definitely
Sure, no
got
problem. How would you evaluate the superintendent's staffing choices?
So I'm going to speak on two other things real quick. Site-based decision-making councils. We actually used to have site-based decision-making councils that brought the community and the staff into the decision-making process when it came to hiring of key people, including the principal. Some of our schools never had that authority in the first place. It was really just a dog and pony kind of thing, and then they ended up taking it away from everyone. So again, policy, I would bring back. We need another CARA, which was 30 some odd years ago. That's where site-based decision-making councils actually came from. We need to learn from our mistakes, not erase what works because some of it didn't, but actually strengthen it and make it better. And again, the PTA could assist in making sure we had strong site-based decision-making councils in our school instead of saying, oh, well, it didn't work, so we're just going to abandon the whole thing, which was what they ended up doing. And I had a third thought, but I think I'm going to run out of time, so I'll save it.
Thank you. At this time, we are going to wrap up with our last question, and then each of our candidates will be able to wrap up with a 2-minute conclusion for tonight's forum. So, Mr. Seftor, coming to you for our last question regarding JCPS vision. Imagine you are completing your first 4-year term as a JCPS board member. Looking back, what measurable accomplishments would demonstrate that you helped move the district closer to becoming a destination district where every student grows every year?
There's several things that I would base that evaluation on. One is improving student achievement. So there's a new curriculum that has been imposed across the district, and supposedly it will take 4 to 5 years to evaluate. I don't think curriculum should take that long to have an effect. I would look at the impacts after 1, 2, and 3 years. In addition to student achievement, there's the reduction in the gaps between different groups. If those are not shrinking, that's a problem. Another thing is absenteeism. If absenteeism isn't going down over that period, then we're not being successful. Another thing is a balanced budget. By the time, in 4 years, if not sooner, we need to be able to have budgets that are not running at a deficit, and we are able to cover the expenses that we need to cover.
Thank you. Ms. Allman, same question. Imagine you are completing your first 4-year term as a JCPS board member. Looking back in a reflective mode, what measurable accomplishments would demonstrate that you helped move the district closer to becoming a destination district where every student grows every year?
So my background is marketing, business, and market share is a great measure for success of your brand. And when I first moved to Louisville in 2012, the district was crossing over 100,000 students. And the trend was positive. You saw the city growing year over year over year, and people were moving into the areas, and development was good. It was a bustling place, and very sought after, I felt like. And I also felt like our district of choice was a flagship model for the country, for the world. And I really thought that it was a grand opportunity that someone like my son, who lives in Eastern's resides area, has the ability to choose schools anywhere in the district, and they provided transportation. That was a great marketing spiel. I brought people in from all over the country. I would go to conferences. I'd be sitting next to somebody at a baseball game. I would tell them how great our schools were, and people would move here. Realtors would say something different than what I experienced personally, and I corrected realtors. I started really trying to work a marketing campaign on behalf of JCPS. I was their biggest cheerleader. And I want to see us get back to where we can cheer for JCPS, that we're proud of the things that we're doing, that we're saying we won't tolerate certain behaviors. Most of us, if not all of us in this room, are not who I'm talking about when I raise the flag about the things that I've seen. But we have to say, you know what, I'm not just going to turn my back to that, that I'm going to say that's not acceptable and I don't want those people in my school system and in my district. And real quick, I'm running out of time, but this is important. We have to make sure that we don't let them retaliate against mandatory reporters who are doing their jobs when they report crimes against children. And that is a good note to end on. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pendleton. Same question. Imagine you are completing your first 4-year term as a JCPS board member. Looking back, what measurable accomplishments would demonstrate that you helped move the district closer to becoming a destination district where every student grows every year?
Thank you. One of the things that I would look for would be to have the test scores flipped. Instead of 24% of elementary school students reaching proficiency and 22% middle and high school students reaching proficiency in reading, I would like to see it flipped so that it's 76% and 78%. That's what I would look for. One of the things that our children are lacking is the ability to comprehend text. The science of reading has duped us again, and they have us thinking, oh, the most important thing about reading is decoding. Well, actually, it's encoding, which is making meaning of print. Many of our students don't know how to encode, they don't know how to annotate text, and they don't know how to recode, and that is write it out or write what they understand. That's the change that I want to see. As an accommodator on the state test, one of the things that I've noticed is it's all reading. They may have 30 minutes of computation in math, but it's all reading. It's all critical thinking. It's all understanding the text. In adulthood, you rarely read out loud. You read for comprehension. That's what I want more than anything else for students in this district, is to be able to read and understand at high levels. That's how we change everything. Kids don't come to school sometimes because they can't read and they don't want to be embarrassed. I've heard teachers as low as third grade say that there were certain things that they weren't going to teach their kids because they didn't need to know that. Well, yeah, you do. If it's in the curriculum or if it's in the Kentucky academic standards, they need to know that. Somebody's already determined that. But I want kids, the one thing that I look for is reading comprehension and kids' ability to perform based on their reading skills.
Thank you so much. We are actually going to give you all 1 minute to close instead of 2 for the sake of time. So we will start with Ms. Adelmann again, since she started us at the beginning. You will get 1 minute. There is a timer in front of you, and so once you begin, you can have your 1 minute closing statement.
I don't even know where to start. GPA for JCPS is all you need to remember on the ballot. I will tell you that I was considering only running up until the deadline to withdraw. People who know me know that I've done that before. I've done it since college, actually. I don't want anyone to run unopposed, and I don't especially want incumbents to run unopposed and not have to show up for forums and answer for the decisions that they were party to in the past. And so I had been considering withdrawing before the deadline, and then I got hit with the ballot challenge, which actually kind of piqued my interest and made me wonder what they're afraid of. And so I'm still weighing my decisions. I have until 4 o'clock on Monday to make my decision. If the judge doesn't make one before then, I've even petitioned 2 different judges to be heard during motion hour Monday. So I'm leaving it in fate's hands and God's hands. This is not up to me. I'm just doing what I was told by God, and that is to run in such a way that I can win, and the rest is up to them.
Thank you, Dr. Pendleton.
Thank you. I am an eternal advocate for children. I think children should be loved, educated, and protected at all costs. You do whatever you can to make sure that they are learning and achieving at high levels. Every day I wake up asking myself the question, who is benefiting from the way things are and why? And who is not benefiting from the way things are and why? We have an obligation to educate our children, all of our children, every single day. And that's what I'm for. I'm also for teachers and ensuring that teachers have the tools and resources that they need in order to be effective in the classroom and to create safe learning environments for each and every student.
And last but not least, Mr. Seftor, your 1 minute to close us out.
Thank you. I'm running because I think we need a different perspective on the school board. I'm not an educator. I'm not an advocate for students, but I am an advocate for what is best for students. And I've spent my career trying to find out what is best for students in terms of programs that are in schools, what's best for teachers, and giving them the resources to do what works. And so I think the district needs more focus on that at this point in time. Student outcomes are critical, and they are the final, the end goal. But there are a lot of issues that need to be dealt with before we can directly affect those. All of those are inputs into what affects student outcomes. And I think we need more focus on decisions and accountability, and I hope to provide that.
Thank you all so very much. I'm now turning this over to our Director of Policy at the Louisville Urban League, Ms. Felicia Newman.
Okay, I have this little mic. I hope you can hear me. Okay. And I need my reading glasses because apparently, I'm older now. I want to thank Michelle. She did a fabulous job. She got called in at the last minute, and she did a wonderful job. That's how we do it at the league. Other duties as assigned. Okay. Our next JCPS forum will be on August 25th. Tuesday at Fern Creek. That'll be District 4's representatives. I want to remind everyone to please go to the powershift26.org, thepowershift26.org. You can register for that event. There are going to be 2 last events, the 25th and the 26th, or the 27th. Don't quote me on that. Go to the website. There you can also register to vote. You can also pledge to vote. We're trying to get all of our registered voters out there to register or pledge to vote, and have a good night. But you don't have to stay here. You go on. I don't want to have to say that more than once. Good night. Good night.
Thank you for joining us for this important conversation. I hope you learned a lot about our candidates for District 3. Be sure to like and share this video so that others can see who is running and what their positions are. This is one of the most important elections that we will have, and school board is one of the most important positions in our city. The future of our kids matters. Also, don't forget to visit thepowershift26.org, pledge to vote, and join us in the shift as we move people power into action. Thank you.
Hey y'all, I'm Adelmann Scott, former Kentucky State Representative, and you're joining me today on State Live Streams.
We will continue to provide updates as we have to our